Hello everyone, and welcome to part 3 of What If the Rescue Bots Were Placed on Team Prime. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So we start off this part taking right after the episode Grill, where Agent Fowler introduces Optimus Prime to his lead scientist, known as Dr. Thaddeus Morocco. It is an honor to meet you, Mr. Optimus Prime. Dr. Morocco here is our top engineer. He was a scientist once in a place known as Griffin Rock. I know of that place. I am friends with one of the locals. It was a pleasure to meet you, but I must get back to work. Of course, Morocco. Go on. Dr. Morocco walks in to a storage room with the remains of Dreadwing's ship, the Rescue Bot's ship, and Nemesis Prime's body. Fascinating technology indeed. If I could replicate it, I could make my own versions of these Cybertronians, and the whole world will know the name Dr. Morocco. So we go back to Starscream, finding the Harbinger just like how he did in canon. Just like in canon, finds the clones and brings them online. And just like in canon, they are sent to the Nemesis warship to assassinate Megatron. That one Starscream clone that fought Bulkhead in canon is split from the group and encounters Hardshell, and Hardshell kills him. In this universe, Bulkhead does not end up on the Nemesis. So Starscream's clones encounter Megatron, eager to kill and assassinate him for Starscream, but Megatron approaches them with an offer. Join me, and I will treat you better than Starscream ever could. Think of the glory that all of you would get if you serve me. The clones then think for a second. Then they group together to discuss. That is when they bow before Megatron. To prove me your loyalties, I want you to do something for me. Bring me Starscream, and then you will all be allowed to join my ranks, most definitely. So the clones do it, and I'd say they trick Starscream and say, we killed Megatron and the Decepticons are willing to accept you now. And that's how they bring him in. Starscream, you're brought before me to answer for all of your assassination attempts and resurrecting our fellow Decepticons from the dead. And that is when Dreadwing makes a grin face. And many more countless crimes. The clones then throw him on his knees. No, Megatron, please, give me one more chance. I beg of you. Without hesitation, Megatron shoots Starscream, killing him. Knockout then takes the Starscream clones to give them some new identities. He takes them to get repainted and some new parts. And thus, they go under new names. Thrust, Dirge, Ramjet, and Redwing. Meanwhile, back at the Autobot base, Optimus Prime has come to a conclusion. It is about time we attempt an assault on the Nemesis and end this once and for all. All of the Autobots then have a sudden feeling that they could do this. With all the members that they have now, they could most likely win this war once and for all right here and now. And Wheeljack then equips the Rescue Bots with weapons that he had stored aboard his ship in case of an emergency. And the Autobots actually use Arachnid to send them a Decepticon homing beacon to meet at these coordinates. And they just put her back into stasis. And soon enough, the Autobots set out. And soon enough, the Autobots come face to face with the Nemesis warship. Impossible. How are the Autobots able to send us a Decepticon beacon? He then presses a button, ordering all flyers down into the field. And we see the first ones to fly down are the Insecticons with the Starscream clones. The Rescue Bots and the Starscream clones get into a fight. They then recognize them as Starscream. How are there multiple of you, and what happened? Starscream cannot answer you at this moment, but we can. And that is when the clones transform, all flying up together at once, and then dive down, shooting a barrage of missiles on all the rescue bots. The rescue bots then respond by taking out their own weapons and opening fire back. Ramjet flies head on towards Heatwave, but Heatwave jumps up and lands on him in his jet form and uses his flamethrower, severely wounding Ramjet. Now we get to Chase and Redwing. Redwing runs towards Chase and punches him. "You have assaulted an officer. You're under arrest." And Chase tries to tase him, but Redwing dodges the tase. "Ha! You think you can defeat me with that?" Chase says, "No." And then he uses his flashlight on his arm and literally blinds temporarily Redwing. Now we get to Boulder and Dirge. With Boulder trying to punch Dirge, but Dirge, being more agile, dodges his punches.
"You are no match for I, Dirge."
Boulder then smiles. "I don't need to be." He then uses his EDK Tech Volt emitter and starts electrocuting Dirge. So now we get to Blades and Thrust. With Blades trying to hit Thrust, but Thrust keeps dodging him. "Come on, helicopter bot."
"You're telling me that's all you got within you? It seems like you're the wimpiest Autobot, huh?"
That is when Blades musters up some courage and uses his Whirlblade ability like he did in canon. That is when Megatron and Soundwave realize something. Where's Optimus? That is where we see Optimus, Bumblebee, and RC running through the Nemesis hallways. They then come across a room with a computer where RC puts a chip to download the Iacon coordinates. That is where Megatron, Dreadwing, and a ton of Viacons walk into the room, trapping them. "Megatron, please, let us end this madness. This does not need to go any further than it already has." "Really, Prime? Then why is it that you have infiltrated my warship?" He then looks at the chip and the Iacon coordinates. "You have arrived for sensitive data, huh?" RC then takes out the chip sneakily. "You will surrender now, Prime, or else your Autobots will fall." "You leave me no choice, Megatron. Bumblebee, now." Bumblebee then takes out the spark extractor. While he does, a ground bridge opens. RC runs through, with Bumblebee activating the spark extractor, throwing it, and Optimus and Bumblebee running through with the ground bridge soon deactivating. Megatron and Dreadwing are the first to run away, with the squadron of Vehicons dying. On the ground, we see Wheeljack, Bulkhead, and Smokescreen fighting Hardshell, and I'd say, because Smokescreen was found by Wheeljack in space, I'd say Smokescreen was affiliated into the Wreckers. And heck, in canon, even he said he wanted to roll with the Wreckers. So, yeah. The Autobots look up to see the spark extractor energy, and that is when the ground bridge opens up from Autobot base, and Bulkhead immediately orders everybody to run through. So everybody runs through and retreats back to base. The Autobots then gather together. 4 sets of coordinates have been decoded. That's when RC says, "If only we weren't discovered that soon." "Nevermore. We still have a huge advantage." The rescue bots then tell Optimus, "Do you think the spark extractor finished off all the cons?" That's when Optimus says, "I fear that Megatron and his Decepticons are still online." We then get back to the warship, with it suffering a maximum amount of damage. And let's just say debris fell onto the spark extractor and destroyed it, just like how Megatron used the Dark Starsaber in canon. "Lord Megatron, the ship has suffered maximum damage. We'll need to find replacement parts to repair the damaged parts of the warship. But I recommend a temporary base to hide out in for now." That's where the clones say, "We might know a place." Megatron then clenches his fist. "I vow to every Autobot on this planet, from this day forward, no one will be safe from my wrath." And that's where I'm going to leave it off here, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed part 3, and I'll see you guys in part 4.